supposed to wrestle Saturday. They actually got the tournament moved to Friday, and so
Got to
some
go
of
up
the teams
and
were able
back
to
pretty
go.
quick.
Yeah, we left probably about 10 o'clock on Friday. Made it up there, weighed in, wrestled well. A couple kids take first, a couple seconds, thirds, and
Nice.
came back home. So
All I did was scrape my driveway a bunch of times. So
Yeah.
I did the driveway like 3 times. I think I did it Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah.
Just kept staying out there. Now I'm fighting a little bit of a cold from it, which is fine. But
Yeah, your body needs it.
dude, the pressure, man. I just hot air, cold air, hot air, cold air, back and forth, back and forth.
I definitely fought the internet this weekend, so I couldn't stream anything except for from my phone, and it was cold, so I also did the driveway a couple times.
Yeah.
Little snowblower action. It was cool until it started blowing in my face because the wind coming around the house was a little swirly, kind of crazy.
It's good for you.
It was fun.
Also made a trip to Sam's Club and almost bought the 100-inch TV just for fun, but decided not to because it wouldn't fit in my car.
That's well.
It would be a
get
long
the
walk
seats
home.
down.
Yeah, absolutely,
the back seats
absolutely.
down.
Back in my day, son, I walked a 100-inch TV
Well, they put it in the back of the
up
buggy,
both
you know.
hills.
just
I'd have
strap it
to-
to the top.
I'd have
Yeah.
to get
Strap
the good old truck out and figure out why I fishtail everywhere with this. It would have just been a fun battle, but I did not do that.
The amount of people that I saw this weekend just driving like get stuck. You know how they plow the
Yeah.
main streets and then they pile it up
Oh yeah.
right on the surface streets,
Yeah.
and then like the neighborhoods and everything, and then everybody shovels their driveway, but then at the end of their driveway is that same like pile up,
Yeah.
and nobody just hammers the gas down and gets through it.
They just
So
get
all-
stuck.
Dude,
That
I
was
saw
my
I saw a
street.
25 Chevy 2500 get stuck on our way to church yesterday morning. I was like,
just-
"Come on, man!"
That's just
The,
embarrassing.
the
Come on,
people,
man.
what
You
people
should just
don't
let
under,
me have that truck. You
yeah,
don't
give
deserve
it to me.
what people don't
Rip it.
understand is when you're driving 20 miles per hour because you're uncomfortable on the road, you are the danger to everyone else.
Yeah, that too. That's what drives me. Like, don't
Watching-
get me wrong. Like going 10 under. excuse me, going 10 under or whatever. Sure. Like you don't want to go crazy, especially when you're driving around people. But people are driving 15, 20 mile an hour and that stuff. I'm just
Yeah,
like,
it
Come
started
on, man.
snowing obviously Friday, and we're on the way back from Council Grove, and most of that track is one lane.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
I got semi trucks, and the wind's blowing, and it's got this misty, and I'm
Driving
just like
by.
I'm just waiting for this semi to just
Yeah.
blow over in the ditch.
that is a job I do not.
Oh,
like.
yeah,
I
it's-
don't envy the truck drivers, especially in tough
Yeah.
weather, having to control that thing.
It's a little
They-
nerve wracking.
They have to be such a defensive driver on that
Yeah.
stuff because of the people on the road who don't drive the speed limit
Yeah.
or they don't trust themselves. Like if you don't trust yourself, get off the road.
Yeah,
Like for real.
sure.
Dude, there were Uber and Grubhub people flying around this
Oh, yeah,
weekend,
they're
and
just-
they were
they
making
don't
money.
care.
Yeah.
But
They're like, this is my time. This is
but
my
not
time.
the people driving 20
I
miles
bet
per
the
hour.
tips were solid.
Oh, I can
Yeah,
only
sure.
imagine. I
Yeah,
can
it
only
was,
imagine.
But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, we did drive when we went to lunch and then went somewhere else. We were coming back from there and pulled up to a traffic light. A little Dodge Durango was driving around, but they had just piled snow in the back of their truck to get some weight down in there. I was like,
It's pretty good.
that guy knows what's up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I
Fun
don't know.
times.
My
Fun
brother
snow.
built like a toboggan type obstacle course in his yard.
Obviously.
So, going around packing the stuff in because they have a slope down yard. So, that they do that every time there's snow. And I always ask if my nephews smoke the mailbox or not. I don't know if that happened to
If
this
you
time
get
or
those
not.
old school sleds that you see in all those 60s, 70s, 80s Christmas movies, you will fly.
the metal
metal
ones,
bottom.
the ones with the
Yeah, top of the
rails,
trash
yeah.
can.
The red
Yeah.
flyers. Or
Oh,
whatever they
my
call 'em.
gosh,
Oh,
yeah.
you will fly. We used to
Zoom in.
when we went out to Grandma and Grandpa's house out in Council. It's very hilly town, you know. And they lived like right next to a big hill. There were some kids who got hurt on that sled going straight down, just
I can imagine.
knocking people down.
Oh,
or
yeah.
they run into
Yeah,
the
it was-
bushes and
Sheesh.
it's good.
We were Jeff was pulling us behind the side by side all around, so that was pretty fun.
That would be fun.
Scout was having a blast. I think she enjoys the snow and the cold a little bit more than Banks does right now. But it was a good time. A little dangerous, but good time. So,
Exhilarating.
live on the edge. Live on the
Build
edge.
up that exhilarating
Love for adrenaline.
Those moments.
Exactly what they need.
Yeah. Woo.
Jeez Louise.
Oh
That was
man.
fun. Good weekend though. Hopefully it starts to warm up though. I can do snow for a couple days, but I don't want to hang
It's
around
supposed to
too
warm
long.
up this week.
A little bit. I mean, we might see above 33 a couple days this week, but
When the wind wasn't blowing this weekend, really wasn't bad at all.
true.
Like
True.
4 degrees, sunny, and no wind. Like that's
It's
not that
beautiful.
bad,
Yeah, not too bad. Not too
Yeah,
bad.
we're gonna, we'll get up to 26 today. Not bad.
Yeah.
39's the high on Wednesday.
That'll be
So,
good. A little melty.
Be in the
Then,
be in the 40s next week.
That's
then,
probably-
Then we hit the ice.
Yeah,
The
that's
slush.
worse.
Yeah. Fun times.
That part of it. But
Oh. Well, so sounds like everybody had a fun weekend.
Yeah.
And,
bad.
and all that good stuff. So Garrett, our purpose here is to, learn about you and the programs that
Get
you do
exciting.
within the confines of your job
Sure.
and all that good stuff. Because you're a former football guy,
Yep.
pro football guy.
Like to say I was. Yeah. Like to say I was.
Played indoor football and those kind of things. You've coached at Parisi, so kind of line us out when you're I guess your life a little bit.
Life. Yeah. So obviously grew up playing sports, wrestled probably since the time I could walk because I had two older brothers that did it. My oldest brother is kind of the one that started to create us into being a wrestling family, I would say. But yeah, from the time I could walk, I was swinging a baseball bat or wrestling on a mat and then when I got a little bit older, about third grade, started playing football and haven't looked back since. And got to high school, was 3-sport athlete, 4 sports at one time because I threw some track in there. I actually played basketball 1 year in the 8th grade because my friends convinced me to. Started every single game, got pulled out in the first 2 minutes. So that tells you anything.
Fouling out.
No, just a famous line was "Dadgummit, Garrett," and pulled me out of the game and whatnot. So did that for a year, but wasn't. I'm 5'9" and 140 pounds. I cannot. Basketball's not in the cards. So, but I knew that it was just for fun. But yeah, I played sports all through high school. Ended up going to Hutchinson right after high school to play football, and was there for a year. Ended up having an injury, tearing every ligament in my left knee and whatnot. So left Hutchinson, went to Pittsburgh State for about 2 years. Was on the practice squad there. Felt like I could play, but again, just kind of wasn't in the cards for me. And then I transferred to the University of St. Mary up in Leavenworth, and that's where I had the opportunity to not just play football, but ended up getting to wrestle a little bit. And I will say to this day that's the most fun I had, in sports. Was that year that I got to wrestle in college, and that's where a little bit of the, I don't like to say regret, but regret comes is like, I look back at, where I am now as a coach and, the love that I have for sport of wrestling. And it's just something that I look back on and be like, dang, the one season I wrestled in college, like I'm having the most success. And it made me look back and be like, dang, maybe I should have just chose to wrestle instead of chasing this, the light that's on football and everything that you see today. That's what I was chasing, for a long, long time. But at the time, I had a lot of fun wrestling. St. Mary football side wasn't, the greatest, we'll say. So a lot of uncharacteristic things from myself, I would say, when it came to, being a teammate and getting along with the coaches and that sort of thing just wasn't the best fit for me. And part of that was my fault for not really doing research. I was just so gung-ho on, I want to play, and I want to play right now. I've waited my time. I've worked hard for this, whatever, and I did end up playing. I started at University of St. Mary's for a year, but just wasn't, for me. And so I ended up leaving, left St. Mary's, tried to go to William Jewell, Sheldon probably remembers this more than anybody because I had this little back and forth battle with the NCAA, just from transfer issues. Basically when I got to William Jewell around COVID time, because it would have been fall of 21, I believe. Fall of 21, I'm at William Jewell in Liberty, Missouri, and I'm battling with the NCAA, sending letters trying to get my eligibility, and then they finally came back and were like, you got to be a resident at the school for a year in order to gain your eligibility. Well, in the NCAA, you only get 10 semesters, and that following spring would have been my 10th semester, so my eligibility had ran out, and so I was essentially like, forget this, man. It's COVID. It's COVID time, and right around, I think it was Thanksgiving break. The roommate I had, because at that school you had to stay on campus. Like everybody stayed on campus. Nobody, unless you had like, I guess, permission to live off campus. I had a roommate who was on the baseball team, and he was a young freshman. I couldn't even tell you his name because I probably saw him for 2 weeks of the school year, and then I'm assuming he got COVID because one day I came back to my room and I was like, dang, I haven't seen my roommate in a week. I was like, where's this guy at?
Right.
And then I get a letter and they were like, yeah, you've came into contact with somebody with COVID. And I was like, oh, shit. So they had this whole separate dormitory set up. They were like, yeah, you got to move into this dorm for 2 weeks.
Quarantine.
Yeah, exactly.
What a ridiculous world.
Yeah, I was
wild.
like, so I'm sitting in a dorm room that's like half the size of this room, and my girlfriend, now wife at the time, I called her and I was like, I can't do this. I'm sitting here by myself. This is a brick room. I don't know. I can't see anybody. I don't know if I'm the only one in here. So eventually I was like, yeah, just come get me, because my car was broke down at the time. I have a history of having broke down cars, apparently. And, little insider trading
Facts.
there. But I had a Jeep at the time, and something was wrong with it. I don't remember. And didn't have a car. And so I called her and I was like, you got to come get me. I can't do this. I feel like I'm in a jail cell here. Like, this is cinder block walls, and I don't see anybody here. I feel like I'm by myself. So I ended up leaving Thanksgiving break, and
In 2021?
2021, yeah,
Okay.
this fall of 21, I go home, Thanksgiving break, didn't go back. It's at the time, just I was so wrapped up in trying to play football and trying to make a name for myself and make a way. And when I realized that wasn't going to happen, it felt like, things just got taken out from underneath me, everything, all the work that I had done, and some of it self-inflicted just by, not just staying the course, and that's one thing that if I could go back and do differently is obviously there's the wrestling side where I had a couple opportunities out of high school to go and do that, but, maybe just staying at St. Mary's and just deciding to wrestle, I feel like, my career and everything would have ended up differently. And then obviously probably wouldn't have played football anymore. But I don't necessarily regret anything. But one thing I do regret career-wise is, if somebody would have looked at me and said, hey, dude, you got a semester or a year and a half left of school, just finish it. And, because now I'm kind of backtracking. I actually graduate this spring with my bachelor's, and then I got to start a transition to teaching course and everything. So it's like, if I would have just stayed in school and toughed it out for a year and a half, I wouldn't have to be in school right now. So that's kind of where it
So
went from there.
walk us back just a little bit there.
Yeah.
Where you went to Heights,
Yeah.
right? So talk us through, at Heights, kind of just, you played 3 sports mainly while you
Yeah.
were at Heights, and then walk us through a little bit on the, what was going on during those sports, how successful were you in high school, and then what was kind of on the table for you coming out of high school looking into college.
Yeah. So, I would obviously my number one was football, and then it was wrestling, and then I stopped playing baseball probably in 6th grade, and then freshman year I picked baseball back up again, but I battled injuries in high school. I mean, one of my best friends to this day, Creighton, is actually the one that fractured my ankle as a freshman. Like, it was like the first day of pads.
Naturally.
Yeah, we were doing some tackling drill, and I rolled up wrong and fractured my ankle. And so freshman year, football season, Didn't get to play it. Played a couple games. Played like one JV game out of need because I think whoever was playing quarterback at the time couldn't tell you got injured or something happened. So I played like 3 games my freshman year. Wrestling season, I was still a kid at the time, and in wrestling, it's like the weight class I was in. So I wrestled 145 as a freshman, and in that weight class, like if you're a senior that weighs 145 pounds, you're probably gonna be pretty good, especially if you've
really
been
good.
wrestling for a while, you know. But that's a hard jump to make, because I'm 14 years old. Some of these guys are wrestling 17 years old, So freshman year, I had a little bit of success. I was probably just above a 500 record, and I didn't make it to state my freshman year. Sophomore year, or I played baseball, C team, whatever, and then sophomore year, football, JV guy, a little bit of reps on varsity. Nothing crazy really. My sophomore year is just more of an experience type of year, traveling and that sort of thing.
And you were like a dual threat guy then too.
Yeah,
like quarterback, wide receivers.
No, I was just playing quarterback.
Just quarterback.
Yeah,
at that
just
time.
quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
we were predominantly run. Like we would at that time we were lucky to throw the ball 2 times a game.
Yeah.
Like but we were successful at the time. We were winning 1, 2, 3 possibly playoff games a year.
Yeah.
So we were a good team.
Sure.
We just ran the football a lot. So and that actually I don't want to say hurt my recruiting, but nobody knew if I could throw the football or
Right.
not. And quarterback's something that I really wanted to do, Sophomore year wrestling, made it to state, got over that hump. I want to say I went like 1 and 2 in the state tournament. It's just, when you finally make it to that stage, the lights are a little bright. It's a learning experience again. And I had wrestled, kids state tournaments, and that's up in Topeka, and there's 50 mats down, and I performed well in kids state tournaments, but high school is a little different. I went back to the same weight class, 145, and I was a little bit bigger, but I think part of the lack of success, I guess should say, is the I cut weight wrong. I was coming off of football, and I'm a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger now, and so I'm coming from probably 160 down to 145. As a 15-year-old now kid, like that's hard.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't do it the right way and you don't necessarily have the knowledge. It was tough. But I made the state tournament, went 1 and 2, did okay. But then the best thing, a little bit of motivation that my coach gave me was like, I lost that second day, first round. He looks at me and he's just like, "Congratulations, you're a state qualifier." Threw me my stuff and walked away. Damn, I gotta buckle down here. And then junior year, I'm starting. I guess backtrack a little bit. I think I started to play baseball. Like I started the conditioning, everything, but that was when I was like, "No, I'm good on baseball." So I stuck to track and threw the javelin, ran a little bit, but track was more so just like for fun. Like I just
Hanging out.
needed
Something to do.
Yeah, I needed something to do. Junior year rolls around, and that's when I really got heavy into like going to camps and that's I have a whole kind of opinion on kids going to college camps and everything.
Let's hear it.
Well, yeah.
Or
since
do you want to
asked-
finish your story
I
first?
can finich it, and we can
Finish
go
high
back.
school. Finish high school.
I can finish high
Making
school.
a note
I'm trying
right
to.
here.
I'm trying
Love
to.
this,
Yeah, let me
love
get
this.
through my high school
Kids.
careers here.
Going to camps.
Junior year, starting quarterback. We have a really, really good team, really solid cast of athletes on the squad, and we had some success. I think we won 2 playoff games. And if at the time where Heights High School was, it was right before I get to high school, they go to 3 back-to-back championships. I mean, they're winning everything in basketball, they're winning everything in football, wrestling is super successful, and and we were still good. We still had a name for ourselves, but at the same time, it wasn't exactly what it wasn't at the championship caliber that it was before I got there. But we were trying, and we were still performing well and had winning records and everything, and people, for the most part didn't want to mess with us, but we fell short a couple times. Junior year had a really good junior season. I couldn't name stats off the top of my head. It was over 10 years
Yeah,
ago. But
you're good.
yeah, I had a pretty decent junior year. A couple colleges came calling, junior colleges specifically, like one or two NAIA schools. Wrestling season was probably my best year. Made it to the semifinals of the state tournament, won the regional tournament, made it to the semifinals. That match still makes me lose sleep because I just think about it and I'm like, damn, like I was 2 points away. You know, I believe I lost like 5-3, something like that. Chose bottom in third period, couldn't get up. You know, I wrestled a kid from Mill Valley, and you know, when those guys are up there, up north, or when they get on top, they're really good at riding and throwing legs in, that type of thing. And just couldn't get away. You know, couldn't score.
They keep track of riding time at that level.
No,
they don't.
Not in high school. No, not in high school. No, they don't. But yeah, so I ended
That's
up.
why he couldn't score.
Exactly.
The other guy.
Well, the other guy would have scored. If he had a minute of riding
scored.
time, he would have got an extra point. It would have been 6-3.
Yeah.
Or lost by 3. But yeah, I couldn't get away, and at that point, I wasn't as, I guess, mature as I thought I was, because after I had lost that match, I was like, well, this tournament's a bust, you know. So I placed. I ended up finishing 6th, I believe. But after that match, you know, because I had some success leading up to it, failed, and then now I'm just like, I just want to go home now. Like, you know, I'm supposed to make a run at this thing. I'm ranked in the state, all class, all these things. Fell short, but ended up getting on the podium. You know, and that's something that, you know, I'm wanting to get our kids to see that, you know, getting on the podium is possible. Right. It's in that's the position we're in now, is like we can get there.
Yep.
We've done it. I've done it, you know, whatever. Springtime, just ran track, threw javelin. I never made it to the state track meet. You know, going back to Creighton, like, it used to make me mad because I was like, I started throwing javelin as a sophomore. Creighton comes in 1 year and freaking wins the whole state track meet. Fucking crow hopping, throwing the javelin almost over 200 some. I don't even know. He threw it far.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, so I was kind of butthurt about that. I was like, man, this is supposed to be my thing. Like,
Bro, why are you coming in and stealing my thunder?
oh, he came in and stole my thunder. And then senior year, and I think I had an offer.
What was your first offer?
First offer was Coffeyville,
Okay.
if I remember right. They called me.
The Ville.
The Ville.
Yeah.
it's the Ville for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, they called me during the summer before my senior year as the first offer. I was super excited. You know, you dream of those things as a kid. And yeah, so they were first offer. That was the first visit I took. And I mean, no shame to Coffeyville. They got a great program and everything, but it wasn't the program that turned me off. It was the
town?
The
It was
environment.
the town. It was the environment.
I'll
What-
never forget Brock's personality change when he played at Coffeyville for that year
Oh,
or 2
man,
years.
I remember that.
I was like, dang, bro, who are you? And he was like, well, I've been at Coffeyville for. I was like, oh, that explains it. I was like, okay.
No, it was actually, it was me and my dad. We went down for a game day visit during football season. Drove down. We were gonna make a day trip out of it. Drove down, watched the game. After the game, I was like, I'm kind of hungry. Like, let's eat before we get on the road. What really turned me off from going to Coffeyville was the McDonald's there. I walked into this McDonald's. It was the worst. And I mean, McDonald's. Like, I love McDonald's. I walk in this, I was like, can't do it. I mean, the soda machine's dysfunctional. There's trash everywhere. There's like 50 people in this McDonald's for some reason in a small town. I'm like, nah, I can't do it.
Yeah, that
Couldn't
place
do
is
it.
something.
So you went to Wendy's?
No, we stayed at McDonald's. We stuck it through, you know, but yeah, the McDonald's is what turned me off. I can't. I'm good. You know,
So I want to ask on your recruiting journey, as we typically ask most of our athletes, were you recruited when you were being recruited? Did you reach out to any colleges, or did they come to you?
I did because at the time I thought, you know, that's what you have to do. You got to, you know, vouch for yourself and everything. And you know, I think I sent, I think the biggest school that I sent film to and sent an email to was Georgia Tech. I sent the email to them, and didn't hear anything back. Didn't whatever. But I sent that because I figured they run the same style of offense, and I figured I do that, so I feel like I can do it at that level. But as I got older, and even my freshman year of college, you're with these bounce backs because I'm at Hutch, and you see what Division I athletes look like, and it's like it's a different level. I mean, I'm in the
different
YMCA
animal.
yesterday downtown, and there's Memphis basketball team in there working out, and I'm like, God,
Yeah.
they're all
7
huge.
footers.
Yeah, they got the belt whooping though by Wichita State.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
they did.
Yeah. Dub City.
3-game win streak.
Should have went to Paris and not the Y.
But in recruiting at that age is you had to do a lot of the legwork, especially like I felt like I was a really good athlete. I felt like I was one of the best in the state in my eyes, and and I felt like when I went and I competed against other kids in the state at various camps and clinics and then all that type of stuff, that I felt like I was the guy. But the schools that actually offered me, I didn't reach out to. They had came to me, they had came and watched me play, and most of them were junior colleges. I remember Hutchinson being at games. Coffeyville was there, obviously. Garden City, all of the junior colleges were there. But the main ones that really showed interest were Garden City, Coffeyville, and Hutchinson. That would actually talk to me and have conversations with me and everything. So I had a pipe dream, and I was sending film to these big time schools and everything, and the writing was a little bit on the wall when NAIs and junior college, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Not at all. Well, Hutch especially. I mean, Hutch is a multi-national
years.
champions.
Yeah.
They play national
Yeah,
champions
they fell
all the
short.
time.
Fell short this year, but
Yeah.
I mean the last 2 years
They've been there.
they've been at the top and still kind of at the top. I mean they lost one game this year.
When
and
was
it was a
your?
national
So when did
championship.
you and I meet? I'm trying to put the timeline together. I feel like it's been forever because it kind
We-
of has, but that would have been. I mean, it would had to be
I
around.
feel like it was
19.
2019.
yeah, I was gonna say it had
I
to be.
believe.
It was before COVID.
Yeah, it was like 2019.
And when did you graduate high school?
16.
Yeah, so you were just kind of
Yeah.
removed there. Okay.
Yeah, we met in 2019. Yeah, because I remember I was talking about leaving because it was the summer of 2019.
Yeah.
Because I had just finished it at maybe not the summer. Was it 2018?
Weren't you part of the morning group that was just
Yeah.
absolutely nuts at Parisi at the
Yeah.
old facility? That's
Yeah.
where I met you in 2019 when I
Yeah,
moved
yeah.
back.
Yeah. I was a part of that morning group. Timothy,
Oh yeah.
Frenchie.
Yeah.
He was still playing. That's where I met Frenchie at Hutch actually.
Because I think it was right before you were transferring or
Yeah.
getting ready to change schools.
Yeah, I think it was after. Well,
Trying to
It
remember
could-
who
it
brought
could-
you in.
it was before.
Just
It was
trying
Keyshawn.
Was it?
Keyshawn's
That
the one
makes
that
sense.
brought me in.
Yeah.
So he was working at, so maybe it was before I got to St. Mary.
It was.
It was
Yeah,
before that. So it would have
that.
been
Yeah.
been the summer of 17.
So I remember we were talking about that.
No, that doesn't sound right. No, it would have been the summer of 18.
I think it might have been 18.
was
So I just remember
18.
when we were talking about you were moving, and I was like, dude, go
Yeah.
where you're gonna play. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like you only get so long to play. Like find
Yeah.
a spot where you're gonna get reps and like
Yeah, it was
build
definitely
film
before,
and like
yeah.
get an opportunity to get on the field as much as possible. I
Yeah, it
remember
was
that,
it was
but
definitely the summer of 18
Yeah.
when I
that makes sense.
met you guys and everything.
So on the recruiting journey, what was your like? A lot of the game these days is talking. You have your skill set and then you have your mental game.
Yeah.
How would you say your mental game was then compared to like how you're teaching and how you're coaching now?
Yeah. So as far as the mental game went there, I wasn't super heavy in the mental game because I felt like I could always get by on pure athleticism. But the older I got, I realized you got to have that mental side. You got to be able to prepare the right way. You got to be able to, when watch film and study and, and look at what other people are doing and how they're finding success. I wasn't super heavy in that. I think I had so much tunnel vision, that everything was physical to me, because obviously I wasn't a super big guy. So I didn't necessarily pass that eye tests. You know, I'm not walking 6'3", 200 pounds quarter. Like I'm not that guy, you know. So I had to find something about myself physically that would make me stand out, and that was usually like my quickness, my change of directions, all that type of stuff. I didn't have crazy, you know, breakaway speed, but I could create. You know, when I got into playing wide receiver, I could get in and create separation and, you know, have receptions and that type of thing. And I just kind of lived in that world. But that is something that I wish I would have had growing up, was a little bit more of that mental side of things. And it's not really to anybody's fault because, you know, I was the only one in my family that had this dream of, you know, being a Division I athlete or playing sports in college in general, you know. So nobody really at the time like knew how to navigate that side or really knew like what it took to get to that point. And I mean, obviously I had like trainers growing up and everything, but you know, even some of the trainers I had that never played at that level, and it just kind of is what it was, you know. So I would say the mental side, I didn't really have that, you know, but the physical side, I feel like, you know, if I can run really fast, jump high, catch a ball, throw a ball, whatever, like that'll get me by. And I learned pretty quickly that that wasn't the case at all, you know, especially when you're talking about the quarterback position. You got to be smart. Like you got to have diction about yourself, carry yourself the right way and everything. So I didn't have that at the time. And, you know, I thought I was the cool guy and laid back and everything, but I realized that very quickly, you know, as I got older, that you can't really play the game that way. You got to be a leader, and you have to walk that way and live that way, breathe it, all of that good stuff. And at the time I just didn't have it, you know, and to my fault, maybe people around me that were, you know, mentoring me, maybe, you know, who knows at this point, but, and I don't hold anybody to blame for that, you know. But as far as like coaching goes, I do get heavy onto the mental side of things because especially in wrestling, it's very mental, you know, and there's kids and guys that'll go off and win titles and championships just because they're confident. You know, they're not the most athletic people. They're not the most, you know, gifted people, but because they really care and they do the right things and they live the right way and they, you know, they care about those small little steps it takes to get there, you know, they end up finding success. And so that's what I lean heavy towards, you know, when I'm coaching kids is, you know, I found out that keeping a coaching diary, you know, writing stuff down, writing out practice plans, writing out, you know, as far as, you know, how did this practice make me feel? You know, how I'm talking to these kids, how did that make me feel? Because some days, you know, there was a practice recently that, you know, I'm kind of going in on the kids, you know, kind of broke them down a little bit, picked them out, singling them out, all that type of stuff. And it wasn't like I'm calling them out of their name. I'm not cursing at them. I found out very quickly that cursing at kids just is not what's meant for me in the coaching world. You know, I thought it was because that's what I grew up with. I grew up with coaches that would curse you out if you make a mistake and everything. But, you know, the kids that I have at Heights are, you know, they don't really respond that way, you know, even though that's what they feel like they need to get them to work harder. My thing is, you know, how can I really get you to believe in yourself? You know, how can I get you to, you know, and not being bland, you know, oh, just have confidence. Like, no,
right.
Dude, you've put the work in. I've watched you do it day in and day out. I watch, you know, how you draw. I've seen your technique. I was like, you have all the tools, you know, and so I try to be that calming voice, you know, that I didn't really have. And I always tell myself, you know, be the coach that you wish that you had when you were younger. So that's how I try to play the coaching role is be the guy that you wish that you had, you know, speak confidence into the kids and let them know that, you know, just because you lose, you're not going to die.
Right.
There's a tomorrow.
It's not life or death.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not the scorched earth stuff that sometimes people believe in. Like, it's not that. It's, you know, this is at the end of the day a game, you know, a game that can change your life. But, you know, we're here right now. We're in high school. You're 16 years old. Like, let's just focus on these little things and build, you know, and ultimately, you know, try to become better people, better humans, you know, because I feel like we get lost in that sometimes. We care so much about winning and titles and all that stuff. And it's like those titles come because you've done X, Y, and Z. like not, just because you're
Right.
talented, so.
I love that. A little coaching tree action right there.
Yeah.
for
So
sure.
Yeah.
to go off that, like you mentioned that you want to be the coach that you didn't have growing up. You want. I think a lot of coaches are like that, right? You want to right kind of the wrongs that were done to you. Then not that the people purposely did wrong to you.
Yeah.
Their intentions were probably good, but that's how they were coached, and they
Right.
passed it down, so on and so forth. So. You talk about some of those coachings. Maybe what were some? You don't have to obviously name them, but what were some good mentors that
What's
you
their
could
good
name?
things? Name me. Okay. Thank you.
Good mentors that
Just
really
kidding,
helped
I'm just
you
kidding,
out,
I'm just kidding.
and then some other ones and how they did it maybe didn't help you out as much. And then because this could be with recruiting, this could be in college, this could be in high school, youth, whatever it might be. And then like what is, what's the difference between coaching cliches and coaching relationships? So like cliche coaches and relationship coaches. So first question, what are some good and bad mentors? How do they do it? And then the cliches versus relationships would be the second one.
I think in a way the relationships
That's
kind of
enough.
go.
That's enough.
That was a great question.
That's enough. No,
Those two really good
That's
ones.
kind of a tough
come
question.
on,
Adam.
don't
Let him
Yeah,
answer.
Don't leave me
that's a
hanging.
good
Don't leave me
one.
hanging.
That's a good one. No, I just, in a way, the bad mentors that were always tough on you, like the other side of the coin is that they make you tough. They make you. You're able to like handle things that if a kid's never had a coach, like I'm battling a little bit of that right now. Is like some of these kids have never had a coach that looked at them and said, "You F this up, I'm gonna," some of them never had that, so I have to like refrain myself from doing that and, speak more positively, but the bad mentors, I think the biggest thing is they didn't live what they were telling me. If you want me to be here at this time, but you're just showing up at the same time I'm getting there, I think that small example of you actually care about the craft just as much as I care about the craft, I think speaks volumes, when you're talking about mentorship, and then the good mentors, I always felt like were super knowledgeable and they were, I guess you could say, well-traveled. Like they've worked with people, across the country. And I think that's where people get accredited, I guess. And then, I mean, going into college, I felt like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to say. Like I felt like I had good coaches in high school, but at the same time, we didn't have like a great relation. Like I had a good relationship with my head wrestling coach. Huge reason why I went back to Heights. Football wise, he's leading the program at Friends University right now. Coach Harrison, super great guy. But other than that, I mean, I think the bad mentorship is, not living by what you say, not, because I think kids pick up on that type of stuff. If you don't show up on time or you're not prepared or whatever the case may be, like kids feel like, well, I don't have to be prepared, and I think that's what played into my mental side of the game was like, if this coach is barely showing up on time, halfway setting up drills or whatever, and he's not prepared, then why do I need to be prepared? I think kids are smart enough to understand that part of it. And the good mentors that I have, they were always prepared. They always had a plan. They always, and they could, relate the things that we were doing to real life examples, and I think those are the most memorable coaches that, that you're able to sit down and have these relationships with, in these conversations with. I feel like that's the big thing that I'm trying to get to right now is when I talk about, being the coach that you wish you had when you were younger, that's part of what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build those personal relationships with kids, on a personal scale, and I think that's why I love wrestling so much and coaching it is because it's so personal that you can see, the kid from where he started week 1 to where he's at now. And it's like, you see the things he's doing in matches. It's like, yeah, we worked on that. We did that over and over and over and over again. Now he's finding success with it. And then, he's all, they're excited after because the stuff that we're doing in practice works. You know, and at first there's a little BS talk like, I told you this shit will work. You just do it. Like, you know, but then it gets to like, you know, you get to start talking to them like, dude, like this is why we have to believe in the work that we're doing. You know, this is why, you know, everything that we do leading up to this point is important. You know, I talk to a lot of kids about, you know, being or competing at a championship level. Like it's really hard to compete at a championship level and be at this level if everything you do is down here. You know, if you show up late on time and you're an a-hole to people and you don't do your schoolwork and, you know, you don't work very hard, then you're never going to reach that championship level. You know, and I think it just, I don't know, like it's hard to pinpoint, you know, who were the bad mentors and who were the good mentors, I think, because oftentimes there were so many and they all kind of blur into one, you know, but I there was a couple growing up that, you know, I don't want to name names, but like one of them, I try to take one thing from each of them. Like this guy made me tough. This guy made me smarter. This guy made me more technical. This, you know, because I think that's, you know, as a coach, like there's going to be one thing about you, whether that be personality or technical. Like I think it's kind of rare to find a coach that's all of these things. Like, you know, I value, you know, my technical side when it comes to wrestling, you know, and then I'm slowly building that personal side of myself to be able to just help these kids and guide them in where they want to go. So I don't know if that totally answers the question.
That's good.
But
That's all right.
but yeah, that's just, you know, when we talk about good mentors, bad mentors, and, you know, living what you say and what you preach, you know, that's I think what's super important to me right now.
Yeah, to be a good coach, I think whether you're in more of an individual based sport or a team sport, you do have to be authentic. And I mean, I talk about being on time. You know, I mean that's always a good thing to harp on. That's like the bare minimum, right? Yeah,
Right.
you know, life happens in the way
Sure.
sometimes. You get people have families and stuff, but like if you sign up to coach kids, right, and you sign up to do this, like you schedule an appointment, you gotta be there first, unless the
For
kid's
sure.
just nuts and shows up hours early or whatever. But
Yeah.
like, you know, I think when you talk about, you know, you played a lot of football and there's these staffs and they kind of all blend together. It's always interesting to me when I hear about like one position coach maybe standing out among them and maybe being a little bit different from the pack. And I think those are the ones that end up going farther in that coaching career because they're going to support the head coach's decision, so on and so forth. But like they're going to invest a little bit more personal time into whatever they're working with. So to kind of differentiate themselves, not for the matter of differentiating themselves, but for the kid themselves.
Yeah.
So like now that we're kind of got the background set up, you know, 45 minutes in, let's talk about let's talk about how your season's gone. So you can kind of do a quick run through of football this year.
Yeah.
For Heights, I know, and then get into the wrestling, how the season's going, what's standing out to you, and then we'll kind of pop in with some questions.
Football. Oh man, it was a little rocky this year. We finished 1-8. Lost in the first round of playoffs, 7-0 game to Southeast. And when I think about, you know, the season as a whole, it was like we were constantly right there. You know, a lot of 1-score, 2-score games. You know, some of the games that, you know, we didn't necessarily expect to be in, but I mean we were in them. You know, and that's I think an attest to the kids that, you know, they kept fighting, they kept working, they kept, you know, doing the things that we talk about daily, and they just fell short. And then when I think about, you know, the playoff game, just a lot of small mistakes that snowballed into big mistakes. And, you know, when you can't score, it's hard to win football games, you know, and we had a lot of opportunities to score. And, you know, one thing that stands out to me in that game is like, God, I wish we had a field goal kicker, because there were so many times that we were inside the 20 and just couldn't finish, you know. And I think that was a huge part of the season offensively, is like, God, we can't finish. Like, we got to figure out a way to finish drives. We got to stop going 3 and out. You know, we got to be more successful in third downs and that sort of thing. So football season was a little rocky. You know, I actually thought that we had the tools to win a playoff game or two, or win a few of those mid-season games. Especially, one of the most heartbreaking games was the Garden City game. I mean, it's 21-3 going into half. We get the ball coming out, we score, and it's 28-3 halfway through the third quarter, and they come back and they end up winning. It's games like that.
I know how that feels.
It's tough.
I witnessed that myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing, especially when you talk about a 28-3 lead or whatever it was. Like you just got to finish. That was, the main theme there is like, guys, we got to finish. We have the tools. We have the athletes. We had some smart football players, like, got to finish, So football season is what it was. Looking forward to next year and kind of just continuing to get better and not really sure, with the day and age of high school sports, not really sure, who's going to decide to leave, who's going to decide to come in, that sort of thing. So we're kind of unsure, a little bit of what our team is going to look like next year. So hopefully, we get some new guys that can, buy into the program and what we're trying to do and understand what our mission is, and we just ultimately want to be better next year.
We're talking about the high school transfer portal.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's no, platform for it, but, you find an address.
Yeah.
The right address.
You
could
find
mean
the
a
right
lot of
address.
things.
There's one. I'm not going to name schools or kids or anything, put somebody on blast, but there's some kids who's like, you got 2 addresses in 2 days. I don't know.
They're holding on to those.
It's a whole thing. I don't know how it works, but
Before you kind of move into wrestling too, so like what's your job title for the Heights football team, and then what is your wrestling job title as well?
So in football, I had been working with quarterbacks the last 2 seasons that I was there, and then this year we brought in a new offensive coordinator, Brian Hill from Garden City. He was the head coach there for a long time, super successful, super smart guy. He actually made it a lot of fun for me. It's a really good person to talk to and bounce ideas off of, and super smart guy. And I worked a lot with him, specifically with running backs. Quarterbacks kind of together, because that's the position that he coached. And then in our offensive scheme, all of our individuals were together and everything. So I got to really learn from him, from the running back. Sorry, I'm close to the table. Sorry. So yeah,
He's getting comfortable, boys.
Yeah, this year was running backs, and I had a lot of fun doing that. I got to work with a kid that I had been working with for 3 years in the past, because we had always had quarterbacks and running backs together, and in the last 2 years I had them together by myself, and so it was nice having another guy who's pretty seasoned as a coach and to be able to bounce ideas off of him. And I'm super grateful that he joined our program, because I think he brings another element and a lot of fresh ideas. So running backs coach this year, wrestling assistant coach. I've been a part of the program for 3 years now. I think my job title is the technician guy, and the same sort of thing as football is just kind of bouncing ideas. And we had a head coaching change this year. Isaiah Murdoch, he was an assistant. He was there a year before I got there. And he stepped into that role, and I think he's doing a great job managing the team, and it's his first year being a head coach as well. So there's a little bit of a learning curve, and being, I guess you could call me an associate head coach, because we're kind of doing the thing together. He's heavier in the paperwork, administrative side of things, but I try to help him out as best I can, along with picking up where he's not able to. If he's doing administrative stuff, I'm leading practices and that sort of thing. So associate head wrestling coach, I guess, is what you could call me on the boys side. But I work with both boys and girls, because we practice together, and I'll go to the girls tournament, and the other assistant that we hired this year is kind of doing the same thing that I've been doing the last 2-3 years, just going back and forth. So really I'm coaching 2 wrestling teams one time, with the boys and girls being together. So, but I think our season's going well. I mean, this is the first year. in all honesty, like this is the best team that I've coached since I've started in the 5 years. I know that's not a long time in the coaching world, but in the 5 years that I've been coaching, like this is the best well-rounded team that we've had. I mean, we're able to fill a full roster, and we got three guys ranked right now. Last time I checked, we had 2 girls that are ranked, and the rankings go to weight class, top 6, that type of thing. So we got 3 boys. We got 1 kid that's ranked number 3 at 120, number 5 at 126, and then I think he's number 6 at 150. And then we returned all of our state qualifiers returned from last year, hoping to get over that hump and qualify some more this year and place higher than we did. We in terms of City League schools, I think we placed 2nd at the state tournament. So definitely excited to try and get over that hump, and in terms of our league, place the highest at the state tournament with how many we get there and how many we can get to place and win matches. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's cool to hear, just the success kind of following the commitment. You know what I mean? Because there's, especially in that sport, like it's like you said earlier, you get a bunch of incoming freshmen. A lot of times you're not going to be up to par just yet, right?
Yeah.
It takes a little bit of development, takes a little bit of confidence building,
Yeah.
right? Depending on weight classes and that type of stuff. It's just, there's a lot that goes into it. So it's kind of cool to hear that you guys have, been able to invest in those kids,
Yeah.
trying to pull as much out of them as possible. And then, seeing some of the success start to move that direction.
Yeah.
It's wild because wrestling is a very individualized sport, but
Yeah.
it's also still team sport.
Yeah.
There's still a lot that goes into that. And I picked up on something you said earlier when you were wrestling, which I think is something that people can learn from is, just because you didn't have the success that you wanted to have in a tournament, in one match didn't mean that it was over.
No, it doesn't, because when I look back and I think about the tournament, it's like, there's no reason why I couldn't have finished the tournament, taken 3rd, and placed a little bit higher and helped the team out,
Right.
that type of thing. Like obviously, when you don't go to the state tournament to lose. If you want to make the finals, you want to win the whole thing and whatnot. But sometimes it doesn't happen, and I just think like if I would have finished that tournament, that could have been another coaching point that I could have talked about. Is like, just because it doesn't go our way, doesn't mean we can't finish and put our name in the record books. And you didn't just kind of poop the tournament away like I did. That's a mistake that I made that I wish I wouldn't have.
Right. Well, I think a lot of people can learn from that in that aspect of, this is a we, not me mentality. In those style of sports, I think that's prevalent in all sports, but that one especially, because you're out there by yourself, you're wrestling on a mat by yourself, like nobody's out there with you kind of a thing. But, taking 3rd is better than 4th and better than 5th, right? Like more points help the team. Everything moves in a good direction. And, being out there for your teammates, your coaching staff, the people that you're representing, there's something to be said in that. And I think that from that lesson, right, like you're going to help change a culture of a team to think that way. And that's important, right? Like that's the bigger picture stuff from team cultures and things that good coaches don't look over. They don't let that slide. So just wanted to kind of point that out because I remember that from your story. But yeah. So with that, are you going to do any spring sports stuff?
No, doing football and wrestling back to back is that's
good to go there.
It's tough. I mean, and right as wrestling is over, I go right into summer wrestling.
Yeah.
And that's huge that I'm trying to get our kids to understand is like, and it's just like every other sport, the more time you put in, the better you're going to get.
Yeah.
But when you really break it down, if this is, I'm a freshman, this is my first year wrestling from, the time we start in early November and you finish the season in beginning of March, or late February, right? And then you turn around and you wrestle, from a week after the state tournament when we start freestyle and Greco, now you're wrestling from middle of March all the way up to August in your first season, right? But you've been wrestling matches and practicing and all that type of stuff. So now when your second season rolls around, you're really kind of on your 3rd year.
Right.
you know. And so I'm trying to get our kids to really understand that, like, yes, you are new and you're green and whatever, but you know, you can make leaps, and that's what, you know, the summer is for. I mean, summer wrestling is huge. You know, if you can find a way, you know, I had a kid last year that his first year wrestling, JV kid, like won one match against his teammate in the city league tournament. You know, wasn't really scoring points. Convinced him to wrestle in the summer, and he's one of those kids that really fell in love with the sport. You know, and he literally just practiced all summer. Didn't compete. I tried to talk him into competing just because, you know, I don't want, you know, practice gets monotonous.
Oh, yeah.
Practice, especially wrestling practice, like it's not the most fun activity to do, you know. So to just do that for 3 months, 4 days a week, sometimes 2 times a day, like that's not fun. You know, and it's hard, you know, on your body as a 14-year-old, you know. So, but fast forward to this year, like he's our starting 106. He's varsity now, and he's actually winning matches. And you see him actually making this progress of, you know, doing the things that he had been working on since last November. You know, and you just start to see some of those things come out in matches, and it's like, you know, it's fun to watch, really. Like that's what I think the beauty in wrestling is. Like, you can really see where this kid is getting better, what his deficiencies are and everything. And that's how I kind of compare it to football. Is like, sometimes it's hard because you can hide in football. You know, there's 100 kids out there. You know, if you're not the guy, you know, it's easy for you to
blend
hide.
in a lot,
You can
a lot
blend
better.
in, you know, and in wrestling, I mean, it's just you.
Yep.
You can't really hide. And, you know, even in the practice room when we got 50-ish kids, 40-something kids, even in there, like, you can't hide. Like, you know, you can't run off to the bathroom and nobody notice. Like, we notice you're gone. Like, we notice, you know. So that's the fun part about wrestling, is really seeing the kids' progress and seeing them actually put the action, like just doing it live, applying what, right. You know, applying what we practice and what we preach all day, every single day. You know, that's what I think is the really, really cool part about it.
Well, I wanted to ask this because I think you'll have a little bit of a different perspective, which would be good for the podcast, because a lot of times we talk
clickbait.
we talk to younger athletes, obviously coming through our program, which is the bulk of the kids that we have here at Parisi. But for you, you know, your timeline, as we were talking in the first section of the pod, was, you know, you didn't come to Parisi until you were in college.
Yeah.
Right. So like, you show up in college and a lot of experience, right? Good athlete. You know, you're kind of I think you probably heard that plenty of time, like kind of a Swiss Army knife like guy. Like, you can do all kinds of things athletically, right? So you show up in college. So I want to try and pull out a little bit of that perspective for some of the athletes out there that we work with, maybe the high school, college athletes that are trying to claim, right, like they want to do the thing and, you know, continue to play at a high level, go to the next level, whatever that level is, right? What was kind of going through your head when you were showing up? And then as we started our programming and the stuff that we did, you know, what was different between, you know, what you did on your own compared to then, and then how did that kind of propel you in a direction?
Like the mental side, or like the physical side, or all of it?
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that helped me, especially with, I mean, there's not a lot of people that know about that little morning group.
Yeah.
You know, that's a little bit of a different group. You know, we came in and those were, I think the biggest thing within that group was the accountability factor. You know, and like, we became friends in that group, and we actually hung out outside of just the gym. Like, you know, gosh, what's his name? I went to Friends. Was short guy Waylon.
Yeah.
We went swimming at Waylon's house after working out in the morning. You know, and the thing about that group that I think propelled you and kind of, you know, made you think about things differently, specifically about how you're operating, is the accountability factor, where, you know, if you didn't show up on time, like, they were on your ass about it. Like, they gave you shit about it. And, you know, and that was the thing that I really appreciated about that group. And then they got on you, you know, if you're, you know, slacking in the workout, you know, whether we're doing prowlers or whatever we were doing, which, I mean, PTSD. I mean, God, like I think about my time at Pitt, and we're doing 6 different variations of squatting, and you do some heavy squatting, and then you turn around and do speed squatting, and it's like, yeah, like it's not touching the prowler workouts, and we're pushing. I think I'll have to find the video one day, but I mean, there's 600 pounds on this sled, and we're just pushing it, and so nothing really equates to that, but yeah, it was just that accountability factor, and always knowing that I know these people are going to show up tomorrow, and I think that's the biggest thing, with kids now is figure out a way to show up tomorrow, like come tomorrow, like don't don't let your soreness and your whatever get in the way of what you want to actually accomplish, and I learned that through my time here at Parisi, and my time at Pittsburgh State, and I had a really strong work ethic at Pittsburgh State, and then when I came here, I kind of had that, but it really took that group of guys to really push, and you can't really slip through the cracks when you have that tight of a group. They don't really let you. So I would say that's my biggest thing is, keep showing up. Keep showing up. If it's something that you really care about and you really, value, then you'll keep showing up for it.
Yep.
Because I think, with today, there's so many distractions, there's so many, I guess that's the best way I could word it, is there's so many distractions that will keep you away from what it is that you actually want to do,
Well, distractions, influences.
Right.
I mean, there's just that group was the OG select group, and it was guys from all walks of life, all different schools, all on a journey that was very similar, right?
Yeah.
But didn't know each other. A few
Yeah.
of you guys had some acquaintances, obviously, before you showed up here, but like once you guys showed up here, it was all about one thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it was super consistent, like, and that was earlier on in my career even, right? So like I was still learning and still
Yeah.
growing, and so not that we're not now, but it's just, working with that group at that point in time, I'm not that much older than you guys, like a little
Right.
bit, right? But, having a bunch of, guys that are still, Tim, who's still, on the track at that point in time, playing professional ball, like, and all these guys that are playing college ball, all surrounded in one place that was a lot smaller than this place.
Yeah.
That place was jumping. Like
Yeah,
that place,
that
I mean,
place-
you
that
pulled up
place
there
is
at 5
fun.
a.m., like that
Yeah.
place was popping.
Sean don't know nothing about that.
Yeah.
That
and
gym was the size of this room.
and it was just like you said, the accountability
Yeah.
factor, and a lot of that, like that came very organically. Like
Yeah.
it was a very organic group that really grew together. But
And it was a group that'd kick you out too.
100%.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I don't think I actually witnessed. I think a big person that could really attest to that is probably Timothy.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he'd be one of the first people that's on your head if
Yeah.
you showed up late or you're not really working hard. Like,
Oh yeah.
he's one of those type of guys that he'll kick you out the gym. Or,
Yeah.
you're not gonna be a part of this group. Like if you're not gonna work and you're not gonna, strive to accomplish the goals that you want to accomplish, then how bad do you actually want
Right.
to accomplish it? I think about, that obviously relates to like, what do you value? If you say that you value this, but you're willing to not really work at it, well, then you don't really care about it.
Right.
You don't care about it that
Yeah.
much.
So that seeps into all walks of life. Then when you're not being authentic about what you're trying to do and what
For
you're
sure.
saying, and then you don't put in the
Yeah.
work to be that way, then
Yeah.
it's just gonna get in the rest of your life, and everybody's gonna think you're fake.
And I hit that point in my football career, which is ultimately, why I stopped playing, and it was many, emotional conversations, more so with my wife, and we had countless of conversations of like, how long are we actually going to chase this? And when am I going to have the looking at the writing on the wall that, this isn't what I'm meant to do. And when I think about the course of my career, it's like, maybe the writing's been on the wall the whole time. And maybe, because growing up, it's like, you got to do this because this is what's going to help you make it out, get out. You know, you're going to make a lot of money from doing this or whatever, you know. But at the same time, it's like when I think about the things that I was actually like, I was good, you know, I could play, I could hang with them, you know, but there's another level to it.
Oh yeah,
You know, at any level of college you go to, any level of profession, there's levels to it,
for sure.
you know. And I think for so long, you know, and it just every day I'm having this kind of like, God dang, I wish I should have just chose wrestling. I should have just chose wrestling because it was just the 1 year I had in college competing. You know, I mean, I left that team with a ring. Like, you know, I'm wrestling. I almost make the national tournament. You know, I'm competing. I'm working hard and everything, but I always in the football, back of your head, football. You know, that follow that light. You know, if you work hard at, eventually you'll get there. Well, I never really. I mean, you could say arena football and all. I didn't leave anything but with neck injuries, a neck injury and enough money to pay my phone bill. Like, that was it. Like, you know,
Still
so,
a level that people don't.
Yeah,
make it to.
yeah, sure,
for sure.
You know, it was fun. You know, in the heat of it when I was consistently playing, but you know, it's just like anything else. When I got there, it became even more, you know, political and who do you know more than college, you know, and I experienced that first when I got to college, and I hate playing that political game, favorites game, but if any coach ever tells you they don't have favorites, they're lying.
Yeah,
I tell kids I have favorites.
Yeah,
I have
everybody
favorites.
does. Yeah,
Like my favorite people are the guys that they do things the right way.
they work hard.
They work hard.
They're
do
consistent.
Like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
They
if
don't
you're not
talk
my
back.
favorite,
They show up.
yeah. If you're not my
Parents
favorite,
have favorite kids too.
yeah,
I promise.
if you're not my favorite, you'll probably know because I don't
Thanks.
talk to you very much. You know, so I don't even know where I was going with that, but you know, football career, yeah. So you know, the writing I think was on the wall for so long, and I ignored it. You know, and if I had to say, you know, kids that are out there playing multiple sports, like there's one sport in your gut that tells you, you know, this is what you got to do. You know, this is what's going to fulfill you the most. And that's what wrestling has been to me. And it took me a long freaking time to realize that. You know, football, yes, there's that love, but what about it? You know, and I wish somebody would have asked me that a long time ago. You know, what about football is it that you love? Is it, you know, the chance to make a lot of money? Is it the fame that comes from it? You know, or do you genuinely love the game? And do you want to sacrifice things in your life to get better at this game? You know, or is there this other thing in your gut that's telling you like this is what's going to be the most rewarding for you? You know, like yes, sports are a team game and this and that, but if there's no level of fulfillment in yourself for doing the hard work and you know whatever, that might not be the sport that you choose or should choose.
100%.
Yeah.
So
I got something.
Yeah.
Let Sean
No,
roll.
no.
Let him cook.
No. But yeah, you mentioned you go get to some point in line and you're like, okay, am I getting everything out of this sport?
Yeah.
Because I mean I went through that myself with baseball my senior year, and I had to eventually before the season actually started, kind of just step away. And I didn't talk to my wife about it. I more the voices in my head, but at the time,
There's a lot of those.
yeah,
Trust
but
me. A lot of those.
it was a tough decision. I mean, you get to the end of the line and you're like, and I thought, well, me stepping away and then taking the role I ended up doing with the team that last year actually, first of all, was better for me and my mental health and physical health too, but also just made me a better coach because I'm like, I don't want to keep playing baseball every single day if I'm going to end up hating it, and then I got to go back and try to coach these kids in the summer and then not enjoy baseball. It was actually, I think it was very, very beneficial to me in the long run.
Yeah.
But the next question I have as we kind of start to maybe wrap this up is, you know, what's the rest of the wrestling season look like for you guys? Just finishing up, just map that out for us, and then I have one more question after that, and then we can kind of pop in with whatever else.
Yeah, so this weekend we go. Thankfully, school got canceled today, but thankfully we're, you know, allowed to practice, so we're not kind of missing a day. But we'll be at Andover High School this weekend for the boys, JV at South, and then the girls are also at South. They do like this dual, like girls varsity, JV boys type of thing every year. It's pretty cool. That's actually, I mean, I've never, I'd say that I've been one time, but I've actually heard, people tell me like this is like a tough JV tournament. Like I don't know. So, but yeah, they JV girls go to South, boys go to Andover. Next weekend we have our City League tournament, which we actually host. Going to try to do that a little bit differently this year, just to try to get it to run a little bit smoother and everything. And that will be JV, varsity boys and girls wrestling all in one Saturday. Usually makes for a pretty long day. And then we roll right into regionals. So who's going to be about it? So we start with girls regional, which will be at where did they say? It's in town. I'll have to double check where the girls is. I believe it's at North. I want to say. I know the boys are at North.
Sweet.
So girls regionals will be that weekend. The following weekend will be boys regionals at North, and then the weekend after that will be the state tournament. So hopefully we can get a pretty good showing of numbers wise of kids who are going to qualify, which I think we will. I think this will be the year that we qualified the most that we have in the recent years. Last year we qualified 4 boys and 2 girls, and now, on paper, I'm thinking we can get about 7 boys, possibly 8, and about 4 girls. So
That'd be awesome.
I'm hoping for the best. So I think we're going to finish the year strong, and like I've said before, just keep pushing, keep working hard, and keep stacking the days.
On that note, my last question, then I'll be quiet. But what? So you talked about how you're trying to finish the season here. What is success in your terms as a coach, and then maybe as a player, and does that differentiate between the two?
I think it does. I think obviously as a coach, like you want to finish better than you did last year, because I think that speaks to the consistency that you have in your wrestling room. If we can consistently, without becoming insane, sort of do the same things and continue that trend of working hard and all of that good stuff, right? I think success for me as a coach is, can I get more state qualifiers, and can I get more on the podium at the end, and as an athlete, you're a little bit, I guess, one track lane. You want to win the thing, but in the team aspect, it's like, well, what if you don't win the thing? How are you going to help the team out? Because like I said, like we finished where we finished last year when it came to the city league and the other schools. I believe we were second, finished like 16th or something like that. So if we can finish first, and then finish, I don't know, 10th, in the state tournament, like that's speaks to the work that we've put in as coaches and what our athletes and kids have put in, who are doing the right things and they're buying in, so as an athlete, you want to go win it, and as a coach, like who has the capabilities to do it and who has the capabilities to, just make it to the podium or even just make the tournament. Because I mean, it's even just making the tournament is an accomplishment, because not everybody gets to go. There's only 16 kids in a bracket out of the entire. I mean, when you're looking at just 6A, there's only 16, say 106 pounders in the entire 6A class that are going to be in that bracket. So just making the state tournament, getting more kids to the state tournament, and then ultimately, doing what we set off to do is place higher as a team, get more qualifiers, and get more state placers. And then there's obviously life lessons in that. I have these words in my brain of like, if I get a kid to the state finals and they win it, I think kids are like, yeah, I did it, but then it's like, well, what's next now? You got to move forward, So I think getting kids to understand the big picture is like, don't let this be the highlight of your life. Don't let going to the state tournament be the highlight of your high school career, because I think kids, get so wrapped up in sports and trying to compete and perform and all this stuff, but they forget, the most fun tournaments or the most fun times are not even necessarily the wrestling, but it's hanging out in the back with everybody together and, talking stuff and cracking jokes and everything. And, that's honestly the fun part about it. And it's an experience, and we'll be up in Kansas City for the state tournament again this year. And it's a lot of fun. They have I forget what the venue's called. It's in Overland Park. They have like a big basketball court / turf area. They have like an ice skating rink, and
dang.
yeah, it's I wish I remember the name of it. My CTE, but it's hard to remember things. Yeah, it's hard to remember things, but it's a pretty cool venue. It was new. It's only a couple years old, 2-3 years old, and they hosted a state tournament there last year, and it was a pretty cool little spot to do
That's
it.
cool.
They had a nice little resting area for us that was on the turf, and they had a practice mat, warm up mat back there, and that's where you kind of set up your little camp and everything, and then you go over to the other side where they have the basketball gym, and that's where they had 6 mats set up, so 3 for boys, 3 for girls, and that part's cool too, like having the girls and the boys together at the same time. So it's like, you get to, if you're a boy, you get to go and you get to watch your girl teammate and support them. So that's the pretty cool aspect of it.
Well, that's awesome. Well, that's great, dude. I don't know, man. There's a lot to unpack there. A couple things I just wanted to make sure that I said. Obviously, super proud of you. You know what I mean? Like your journey, not only as an athlete, but then also as a coach. It's kind of cool to just hear it from your, perspective, your mouth, your words of, just knowing where we started and seeing where you are now, implementing things that you worked on, and being able to watch the progression that you've had, the maturity, the pieces that you've started to all piece together, to be able to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
But ultimately coaching and helping and mentoring and just doing all those things. It's a lot of fun to watch that happen and be a part of that journey and just see those things happening for you. So
Yeah.
You're living it.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
awesome.
You're living it.
Yeah.
Well,
I
you talk about
appreciate
the lights, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You talk about the next thing, and everybody, and don't get me wrong, obviously in youth sports and growing up, like everybody has the same pipe dream, but you have been able to take those experiences and turn them into being a professional, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's something, that's perspective. We talk about that a lot at Parisi, but we are professionals. Like what we do here and what you do is a professional thing, right?
Right.
Like it's, sure, we're not getting paid millions of dollars to do it, and we ain't on TV.
But sometimes, yeah, it is. I mean, it's not always about that though. And,
Right.
And to kind of piggyback on what you said, like I don't think I would be. I mean, not like cockiness or anything, but Parisi taught me how to coach.
Yeah.
It taught me how to be a professional and how to, do the small things like showing up on time and being prepared and that sort of thing. And, and I think the biggest thing that Parisi taught me was how to build relationships with kids, because that's ultimately, if you build a relationship with a kid, they'll do anything for you.
For sure.
And so that's where I think I credit it. And I thank you guys for that. And, allowing me to come in and coach, for however long I did. And, and I think I do take a lot of the things that, I've learned here and I implemented it. Like there was no difference between me working Parisi Speed School or Heights High School weights. Like, we had them, I had them in there doing the same thing when I first started at Heights. And so I'm super, super appreciative of, that and, letting me come on here and tell stories and whatnot. So, super thankful for you guys and let me do this and things that.
Well, it's
I've
awesome
been
to
able
see
do.
it. It's awesome to see it happening, and it's awesome to see that getting, pushed forward, right? Like, impacting the next generation, doing something for the next people coming up, like truly being selfless in the craft, and I think that, just knowing your whole story and knowing all of the adversity that you've dealt with and just all of the different things along the journey, because we've known each other for a while now, which is wild, but it's cool to see you land in the positions that you are, but then also seeing the success follow it. And there's no secret to that. You know what I mean? Like it's, you've earned that portion of it, but watching you be able to give back to everybody, that really hits home for what we want to do here and the things that are going on. But so I appreciate everything that you're doing. I appreciate all the things. It's awesome to watch it, and it's cool to hear it. And wish you guys success. Wish you nothing but the best. And obviously, this will always be home for you. So
Yeah.
But yeah. Any other questions,
Absolutely.
guys?
I'm glad we had a snow day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked out really well.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. I was like, snow day, no school. I'm hitting GA.
Yeah.
We've talked about it for a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely happy to get you in here. I don't have any more questions except for one. Sean, do you mind?
Well,
leading?
before we pray, do you want to, any shout outs, anything that you want to say to anybody? I mean, it's a little longer pod, but that don't matter. It's our
Yeah.
podcast. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah, you can do what you want. You write the rules.
Yeah. But if you want to, shout anybody out, say anything to anybody, if you want to leave a thing for the younger generation to hear from your mouth that maybe you didn't get to say, just anything you want to throw out there, and then we'll pray to close it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna shout out Parisi for letting me come in here and speak my truth.
Dang it! Delete the podcast. He
No,
had
it's-
to say it.
Yeah, no, I'm just super grateful. There's been a lot of people, throughout my journey, that's helped me along the way, and there's a lot of people to name: Sheldon, Dave, Sean. Those guys are super helpful and super, good company to talk to and bounce things off of. And I know that Parisi holds a special place here, and I love kind of being the honorary member of the golf team they host every year. So that's
Go
that's
Dubs.
pretty
Roll
cool,
Dubs, roll
But
Dubs.
all that being said, for the younger athletes, listening or watching, just stay consistent with what you're doing. Remember what I said about the gut feeling that you have, that if you're a multi-sport kid and you're not really sure, sometimes it's just listening to what you got on the inside, and your gut will tell you and your heart will tell you what the right move is. And don't panic, because it's a journey at the end of the day. And just because you're not competing doesn't mean you can't find different ways to compete. And that's what I do as a coach is, I get that same competitive factor as I do as a coach as I did as an athlete. So super thankful for you guys and let me come on here and chop it up, and hopefully I gave somebody a little bit of something. So.
There you go. That was great, man. Appreciate you. All right, Sean. Your time to shine. Although you had
You
some
did.
awesome questions.
Yeah, I love those questions.
Those
today.
were good.
That was
Those were
awesome.
good.
Those
Yeah,
were
those
great.
were
It
good.
made me
That's
think.
enough.
It
Yeah.
made me
Yeah,
think for
yeah,
a second
yeah,
how to
yeah.
tap.
Good job, little boy.
Oh my God.
Here we go again. All right. Lord, thank you again for this day. Thank you for keeping everybody safe over the weekend. Just pray for just further people just paying attention on the roads and stuff, and being safe out there as temperature changes and everything like that. Thank you for all the people just clearing off the roads for us, the city of Wichita. Pray for all of our other communities or smaller communities we're involved in as well for that. Same thing, safety, safe travels. Thank you for bringing Garrett in here today, kind of aligning it all up so you can come spend a good chunk of time with us, sharing his story. Just great to hear from a local guy who's been through it all, been through the ringer, and came back home and wanted to give back to his community coach. Lord, I just pray for health and safety of his team, finishing out the season for wrestling, and then also just safe travels as they obviously have to jump around to a few different places here. To finish out the year, and just a lot of success, a lot of consistency, a lot of hard work to finish it out, and all for the glory of you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Well, that's it for episode 64, Snow Day, featuring Garrett Haskins, coach of
Real bad.
Heights High School football and wrestling. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
I thought a song was.